Welcome to Nightfall Crypt, where the shadows come alive.
Sarah and Jason were siblings who shared a room in their small, quiet house. One night, as they were getting ready for bed, they both felt an uneasy sensation, as though someone, or something, was watching them. Sarah glanced out the window, her heart pounding, but saw nothing except the faint shadow of something moving across the street. Jason joined her, squinting into the darkness, but the shadow vanished as quickly as it had appeared. "Probably just a tree or something," Jason said, trying to sound brave. Sarah nodded, though she couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. They brushed it off and went to bed, hoping it was just their imagination. The next morning, they told their parents about the strange shadow. Their parents dismissed it, saying it was likely just a trick of the light or their overactive imaginations. "Don't worry about it," their dad said. "There's nothing out there." But that night, as they were settling into bed, the feeling returned. This time, they heard faint noises, soft whispers, and the sound of footsteps outside their window. Sarah and Jason rushed to the window and froze. The shadow was back, but this time it was closer, much closer. And as they stared, the shadow seemed to solidify into the shape of a man. He stood motionless, his face obscured by the darkness, but his presence was unmistakable. Sarah gasped, and Jason grabbed her arm. "Do you see him too?" he whispered. Sarah nodded, her eyes wide with fear. They ran to their parents' room, shouting about the man outside. Their parents followed them back to the bedroom, but when they looked out the window, they saw nothing. "There's no one there," their mom said, her voice tinged with frustration. "You two need to stop imagining things." But Sarah and Jason could still see the man. He was there, clear as day, standing in the yard. Stranger still, the shadow seemed to belong to him, as if it were reflecting him instead of the other way around. Their parents couldn't see it, no matter how much the siblings insisted. Reluctantly, Sarah and Jason went back to bed, but sleep didn't come. Hours later, they woke up to find the house eerily silent. The clock on the wall showed it was still the middle of the night. They called out for their parents, but there was no answer. Then they heard it, the creak of the front door opening. Terrified, they ran to their room and locked the door, but when they turned around, the shadow was already inside, waiting for them. It lunged forward, its dark, formless hands grabbing their shirts. They struggled, but the shadow was impossibly strong. The floor beneath them began to ripple like water, and they sank into it as if it were a pool of darkness. The room dissolved around them, replaced by an endless void. Sarah and Jason screamed for each other, but their voices were swallowed by the blackness. Then, faintly, they heard their parents calling their names. The sound grew louder and louder until suddenly they woke up. They were in a hospital room, their parents sitting by their bedsides. The doctors explained that Sarah and Jason had been in a coma for a week after a carbon monoxide leak in their home. The siblings exchanged a glance, knowing it wasn't just the gas that had caused their ordeal. After they recovered, their parents decided to move out of the house. They never spoke about what had happened, but Sarah and Jason couldn't forget the shadow or the man who seemed to control it. Even in their new home, they sometimes felt his presence, lurking just out of sight. The old house remained empty, its secrets buried in the darkness. And though they tried to move on, Sarah and Jason knew the shadow was still out there, waiting.
And so, the shadows grow darker and the mystery deepens. But this is only the beginning. What lies beyond the door? Who or what is behind the whispers? The answers await in the next chapter of this chilling tale. Subscribe to Nightfall Crypt and hit the notification bell so you don't miss what happens next. The crypt holds many secrets, and we've only just begun to uncover them. Until next time, stay in the light if you dare.